Okay, yay, we are in. We've made it to the internet. So, welcome everybody to today's Eat and Greet. And hopefully, in the next hour, we give you something that was worth the time you took to show up. So, thank you very much for being here. And I'm just so excited. I'm going to just come out and say it like Judith Hill is here. That's really exciting to me. I am my baby astrologer next to you, Judith. So, the fact that you said yes, I was like, well, cancel the rest of 2020. I've got Judith to come in. I'm pumped. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Stormy. One reason I said yes is because of what Stormy is doing here. I believe she is either the first or one of the first to fulfill a life dream of many of us astrologers who've been around for years and years and years. And that is to do something for the lunchtime audience or more popular audience that isn't fluff, that is really deep, rich astrology. And I always said, they want meat out there. They do not want fluff. If you do deep, they will come. And when I saw what Stormy was doing, I almost couldn't believe my eyes. And that's why I said yes.
Well, and I'm so grateful you did. And I feel like our talk today is going to be nice and meaty, things to think about, because I don't know. I don't feel like unless you really do get in a little bit deeper, the transits from the node don't always get a lot of press.
Yeah. And this is truly weird because the nodes are where the eclipses happen. They can swallow up any planet. In a sense, they are perhaps the most important transits outside of Saturn and Jupiter are chronocrats. And all you have to do is try them out and you'll see for yourself. They really work.
Yeah, well, I was laughing. We were talking before, and this time when I had a nodal return, I got married. And we didn't even plan for that to happen. And my husband and I are 28 days apart, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So we got married at our nodal returns, which was just a real riot when you go back and see the astrology of these things, of course, right?
Yeah, well, the nodal return, it's about 18.9 years, almost 19 years. And it represents the completion of a cycle of spiritual work. Did you go up? Did you go down? Sometimes people don't notice it. They often more notice the nodal reverse, where you get a chance to either fall off a good road onto a bad road or go from a bad road onto a good one. It's like a personal New Year's resolution time.
Sure.
Well, what's more fascinating is watching the nodes cross your planets as they go around backwards through the chart.
So we're going to get to that today, which I'm totally pumped about. So before we get to that and start to talk about everything we've got meaty today, remember, if you are watching this, you can definitely continue to watch here on YouTube, and you can also check it out on Patreon. There's a couple different options for you to interact with this, but no matter what you do, please like, comment, and share. Judith is just such a gift for us to have. So we would love to hear your experiences in the comment section down below. People are jumping into the chat right now, Judith as well, and they're like, she's the best. Oh my gosh. So you're being welcomed already. And so some people don't have a lot of nodal experience, but the nice part is I'm a fan of resources, and you have a book.
Yes, I've had a book a long time. It's has kind of a dumb cover because in the old days I did them myself. The Lunar Nodes, your key to excellent chart interpretation, because folks, it is. And this book has the transits to the nodes, transits from the nodes in the signs, the nodes in the houses, the nodes conjunct every planet natally, the medical nodes, but more. It begins with a 60-page somebody had typed up a workshop I gave on the nodes. And it's a wonderful, so it begins with the nodes east and west, comparing what they were for the Jyotish in India and what they were for the classical Western and Hellenistic traditions, and why the exact same energies are sometimes interpreted oppositely. This is the most fascinating thing. And I'll just say that the South Node is where, it's very simple. The South Node is the exit point. That's why it's called the tail. Kada means tail, that's its other name. The tail. The North Node is the entry point where things come in. Just it's the mouth, the head of the dragon, where celestial energies of some unknown types enter, the tidal, the solely lunar tide of energies exits at the south node. So in the West, we don't like exits. We want to accumulate wealth. We want more, more, more. We want to gorge ourselves. We don't like death. In India, they feel we don't want to get too attached to the earth plane. So they call the south node moksha karaka the indicator of enlightenment, because it teaches us to let go. So as they transit around, it's a very simple concept. The north node brings something in, a wave in. The south node brings something out. Now, we all get scared of the south node, but haven't you ever wanted to clean house? Haven't you ever wanted to get rid of the boyfriend? Or sometimes it's just time for that cat to die. The south node has a good point. It's where we give. You give, but you don't get. You can pay karma through generosity. Dispensing works. That's why it loves to be in Sagittarius, where it is right now. And it's one of its exaltations. Whereas the north node, everybody goes, oh, I'm going to get something, how wonderful in the West here. But it can govern impactions. Like it has a lot to do with, glaucoma or, strokes, because it brings too much energy when negative. So I want y'all out there to not think of the nodes as exclusively good or bad. They're good for some things. Incoming energy is good and bad. Depends on what is going on. If you need a job, it's sure good. South node, outgoing energy. Where would we be if we ate all day and then didn't defecate?
Right.
We would all be seriously constipated, which the north node rules, by the way. So that's in a nutshell how to view them a little bit.
Yeah. Which is beautiful. And if this is your first introduction to Judith, not only did she talk about nodes and all of this good stuff, but vocational and medical astrology is where Judith specializes. So, if you ever write to me and say, Stormy, I have medical questions in astrology, I'm going to be like, nope, you got to call Judith.
Yeah, I've got a newsletter on my website, judithhillastrology.com, and a new little medical academy, which people can take a look at too.
Wow. Well, a medical academy, is this just all medical astrology?
Yep, it's the Academy for Astrological Medicine. It's actually my academy, so I call it Judith Hill, so it doesn't sound like it's the academy. Other people teach this subject, but it has courses, classes, and many books, and hopefully in the future, I'm working on it, something up online, but being an oldster, I'm not too comfortable with computers. It's step by step.
Step by step. That's how the rest of us got here, was step by step. So you're doing good right there. That's beautiful. Yeah. So with that particular book that you have, can we pick that up on Amazon or just at your website?
Amazon's great. You'll get it cheaper, you'll get it quicker, and I won't get stuck in the long post office line.
Plus, then Amazon gets to come to your house, which is always a little mini Christmas for me.
Yeah, they are a little slower now with COVID, but many astrologers have told me that this is their go-to book when they're trying to look things up on the nodes, and they keep it in the office. It's a lot of people's one of their very favorite books. So I wrote it a long time ago, but it is very entertaining, as well as in depth on every single thing you can look up with a node.
Brilliant. Well, we've actually got our first question before we jump into our talk, and I think this is a great question. So what is your opinion of using the true node versus the mean node?
That is a great question. Mm-hmm. And for years and years and years, in fact, when I was practicing, we didn't have a true node. And astrologers never did. And we found the mean node worked very well. Since I've been using the true node, I prefer it, especially for transits, because that is its exact moment it is crossing. So I would, if you're using transit nodes, I would use your true node. If you're using transits to your nodes, the true or the mean, I would use them both. They're usually a degree or two apart, if that. Just use them both. And, they have a big orb too.
Yeah, I know. That's probably, it's so funny. I laugh because I tell everybody I'm an orb snob. So that is probably one of the only placements where I'm like, until you get around the nodes. Yeah. Then we got to get a little bit bigger, because those things are like a little vortex, kind of a little bit. They suck up what's around them like a sponge.
They really, really do. Yeah, they're incredibly powerful. I'd say a 15 degrees on either side, you can start seeing some effects if it's in the same sign. Really, truly. Yeah.
And so you were saying, when you started practicing, you kind of didn't have the choice. And it's
Oh,
just making me think, you've been doing this a little bit, a couple years, just one or two, but it's so different. As an astrologer coming out for me today, the world is so different than when you started practicing. And I would love to take a minute to hear about that. What was that like for you then?
I'm so happy you asked that, Stormy. The young generation needs to know this. Just like with the Black Lives Matter movement and the social movement and the suffragettes and the feminist movement. When I was doing astrology in my earlier days, astrology was illegal in the United States. We
Mm,
had to do it very quietly. There was a law on the books that if a radio or TV station had an astrologer on, they had to make you look stupid, and they did. And also, it was considered a disreputable career. You could not openly tell people what you did. It was all hush hush. People would come to you in secret. I had a lot of important people send a proxy, someone else in their place, so that they couldn't be caught going to an astrologer. They would be laughed out of their job. It would be all over the news. It was like being gay in those days. And I once found a little memo that said there were about 100 full-time practicing astrologers in the United States. When people found out, I couldn't tell my family. My father taught me, but my cousins just thought it was all stupid. It was considered, if you said to you an astrologer, you would either be thought to be a fraud,
mm,
charlatan, or an idiot, or a complete fool, or some kind of occult practitioner they were all afraid of, or a witch. They're all terrified of this. And so, you had your friends, and there were astrology groups, magazines, but it was, if you wanted deep, real astrology, you had to go hunting for it. I was listening to your show with Basil Farrington,
yeah.
and he's about my era, I think. I'm not sure, but he was talking how he was reading Llewellyn George, and he had to go out and find him, and he spent some time hunting this man down so he could meet him in person and learn. We didn't have the web. We did not have computers. Charts were all done by hand. I did 10 years of research, largely doing charts by hand. The computers were just coming in. This was so. I never believed. I wrote all my books, never thinking anybody would be interested in these books. This is unbelievable what's happening today. We are now in a golden age again with, the main question I would be asked as an astrologer, you're just going to die laughing. Main question I'd be asked by my clients, my friends is, you really make a living at this? Always with the tone of disgust. And now the main question is, how did you get into this? I want to be one too.
Right. 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 Oh, like you don't have an astrologer? Why?
Yeah, there's historic reasons for all this besmirchment, but it seems to be changing, and the younger generation is going to turn it around for us. So I'm thrilled.
So can I, without asking a lady her age, can I ask you when did you start practicing? What's that date?
I began a 4-year apprenticeship when I was young. I was selected, and I opened my practice in 1969. Wow. I'll let you do the math. And I've done consultations. I was thrown out on my own very, very young. My mother died when I was 14, and I pretty much got out on my own. Between 14 and 17, I was reading charts and making, my way. I was completely out on my own by 17, 100%. And so I had lived with my grandmother took me in when I was 14, and she's light-skinned African-American. And it was a very different experience than my Jewish household I came from.
Sure.
And with my mother, and my dad's Irish, kind of interesting. And so I had a very different cultural experience, grew up in Haight-Ashbury. And then, so I started doing my first professional readings in 1969. And then I went full time about 4 years later, just full time. And I have done a full time made a gracious living without spousal support or a side job ever since. And you guys can too.
Yeah. That is so beautiful. Like it's exciting to hear that, because I can tell you when my business hit 7 years, so we hit our little Saturn cycle. And I remember when I started, I thought, oh my God, the universe is crazy. I'm going to starve. I'm going to have like 2 part-time jobs or something. And that has not been the case. Not once in
If you're
7 years.
good, if you are good, I never advertised for
Yeah.
30 years. If you're good, people are always seeking the star knowledge. It's a wonderful, real thing, and they know it. All humans are so connected with their stars and their star lore.
Yeah. Well, and I'm excited. I like trees and lineage and tribe and that kind of stuff. So it feels really nice to get to walk in your footsteps, because you guys paved a beautiful way for us. And hopefully we treat that as respectfully and with as much reverence as is able to be done.
Well, I have to say us who did this, it did take some courage, because we had to totally love this, because everybody was against us. Yeah. And we had our reputations were always at stake. And the year that they legalized astrology in 1989, they dragged a few ladies off in the Bay Area to prison with all their books. So I was shaking in my boots right before they legalized it. To think it was illegal in most states until 1989 is remarkable.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine, because today it's like astrology school, session, summit, just so available. So, man, trailblazers, you guys definitely were, for sure.
Yeah, well, you guys we blazed the trail, but you guys are making a highway.
Yeah.
With gold.
And now, though, in a really neat way, I feel like we get to invite you onto the highway. We're like, come out here, bring everything you know, and now come out here in a different way. And that's exciting.
We are grateful. We really are. It's our dream.
Well, yay. Okay, we better get into this topic, because I'll just be sitting here staring at you for the next hour, and we don't need any of that. When we're getting transits from the nodes, let me say this first. What's the difference between transits to and from? Let's maybe set that up for a minute.
That is a beautiful question. A transit to the node is, your natal chart will have nodes in it. So when a planet like Jupiter or Saturn comes to the north node in your chart, or comes to the south node in your chart, that's to the node. So the planet is coming in. So the north node's a mouth. So say Jupiter comes to your north node, you're going to be lucky. It brings some kind of luck. The universe will give you something. What will depend on the house and the sign. Jupiter coming to your south node, something's going to go out. I can't tell you how many people I've saved from huge stock market losses, warning them about Jupiter coming to their south node. And so those are very important to know. I have them all detailed in the book. But the transits of the nodes go around through the chart just like planets do with their 19-year cycle. They spend about 1.5 years in every sign. So now sometimes the ephemeris usually just show the north node. The south node's always exactly opposite. So they are bringing a whole wave of energy going in or energy going out over your natal planets as they cross them. So say south node crossing Jupiter would be a great time to lose weight. Jupiter's going out. Sure. Or couldn't we? So often I've seen a grandparent or teacher or elder in the person's life depart, either leave or die. But it's good for some things. Whereas Jupiter coming to your north node would mean the universe is going to give you something. It's on your personal north node. Something's like a job opportunity. Yeah, gateway. Jupiter comes to the gateway. So Jupiter's coming to the gateway, or Jupiter's coming to the exit point. But the transiting nodes bring 1.5 year wave over that planet. It's very, very useful medically and vocationally.
Okay.
So should I expound?
Yes, please.
Okay. I don't want to just hog the floor, you know. We call, at least in old days, we call it stage hogging. The stage hogs. I was in a little bluegrass band called the Alameda County Stage Hogs for a little while. Anyway, say South Node when it comes to your Saturn is really valuable to know, because if you're especially over 40, it usually signals beginning of loss of calcium. Saturn rules the bones, teeth, calcium. And it's so common. I'll ask people, oh yes, I just was diagnosed with osteopenia or something. It also is a time when something that has been around a really, really, really long time in your life will leave. That's not always bad. Maybe you want to get rid of that old house or something, a shackle. I've seen a lot of very, very happy ladies who got rid of the husband and got a wonderful alimony on that one. Saturn on the South Node too. Yeah, it has its humor value. But let's say the North Node crossing Saturn, that's a great time to build muscle and bone, just the opposite. It will facilitate you. So you can remedy these things. The same thing with careers. Say you are in a Saturn ruled career. Maybe you're an architect, you know, it might not be such a good year, the year that South Node is crossing Saturn, or maybe they'll discover the foundation you built caved in. But it's a nice time for a sabbatical. I've seen that. It depends on, you know, which way is it going to take? It depends on the chart, on the person, what is going on for them, how old they are. You get, the astrologer usually knows pretty quickly, even with a few questions.
Yeah. So what happens when you're getting a nodal transit to your sun then, since that's our motivator?
Nice. Okay. When the North Node comes to the sun, your energy goes up. The sun is your battery, your vital force, they used to call it. So your energy is going to go up. You also may get a really strong feeling about what your purpose is in life. People always want to know what are they here for? I sort of joke them, if you were here for something, you would know it. But I'm joking. But some people are born for a particular career and other people are not. And some people don't discover it till they're 50. But this will help you figure out what your purpose is, whether that's spiritual or something you need to do. It does pump you up. Now, if you're an egotist, it'll make you more impossible for others because it'll bump up your egotism. So the South Node coming to the sun, I have never seen this fail, except in cases of people who are born with super high vital force. Vital force goes down. They're feeling a little strangely fatigued, especially when it's exact. Say your sun's at, right now, say your sun's around 20 Sagittarius, that's where our South Node is coming. They often feel a little tired. Well, there's all kinds of methods to bring in the vital force. I will be giving a post-conference workshop at NORWAC, going into remedials for these conditions, and people can sign up for that now at NORWAC. Yeah. So that's May 27th, I think, coming in.
And I'll make sure the link is in the description so you guys can sign up for that. We'll both be at NORWAC this year.
Yes, Stormy. We can't meet in person. That's just so sad. But we can wave. I know. But it opens the NORWAC to so many more people.
It does. Virtual conference is the way to go, but I'll get off track. So don't let me get you off track.
Yeah. So you can do many things to bolster your vital force, but if you suddenly feel fatigued, that's the reason. Strengthen your eyes, your heart, your brain. If you were in a sun-ruled career, like you were the boss or you were a coach or something, band leader, it's not the best time for your or just do things volunteer. South Node's great for volunteer, generosity. And you can turn some of it around by picking an activity where you're giving. I used to go collect trash in the neighborhood to get rid of my South Node problem that I would have every now and then. It was a weird one, but it would remedy it and it stopped happening.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so these are like we're having the interaction to them in a conjunction, correct?
Mhm.
So what happens when you're experiencing a square maybe to that sun or to that Saturn? Instead, does it put you in that position that is just that tension of something's not right here and I need to course
Oh, I'm
correct?
so glad you asked that, Stormy, because I would have forgotten. There is something that horary astrologers know called the bends, which means the bendings of a road. And it's when the nodes come to exactly square a planet. So nodes are always opposite. So the planet they square, either in the natal chart or as they're transiting around, will be in the middle of the bendings of a road.
Okay.
It's a very uncomfortable squeeze. That planet feels under an enormous tension during this transit for a degree or two. And especially when it's exact. If it's your moon, you'll feel terrible emotional tension for a little while. And you have to make a choice between two roads emotionally. Whatever the planet is, it's a choice. It seems extremely important when it's squaring Saturn, when the nodes come around to square your Saturn. So all you folks out there with the nodes in right now around 20 degrees uh, Virgo and Pisces, the Saturn will be in the bends. If your Saturn is in middle Virgo or Pisces, it's coming into the bends. And you have to make a big life decision often between two completely different ways of being. The same thing, even more profoundly, often happens when transit Saturn gets in the bends, squares your natal nodes. Oh, that one happens to everybody twice every 19 years. It's often a very stark decision. Should I move to the East Coast? Should I move to the West Coast? Should I vote Democrat? Should I vote Republican?
Right.
It's usually really a stark difference. More so if it's a fixed sign, which allows no flexibility.
Sure. So the question here is then when you are forced to choose, should you be choosing that north node? That's an interesting question because if you have something you need to let go of, maybe the choice is to go south. Or what do you think?
Excellent. Now, you're completely correct. In most cases, the North Node would be the better point because the South Node is the point of self undoing in the old days. Back in the old days, we weren't all nice. We just told it like it was.
Like
Not
the
nice.
plane's going down if you go that way. Hey, look.
Go that way. We didn't try to make too much lemonade out of lemons. But if the person was, say, an extreme materialist, it depends a lot on where they are spiritually. This is where age and insight help an astrologer. I've seen some very young, wise people. When say the person has invested their whole life in just gaining money for self. All they did was me, money, money, money. It's all they thought about. And here they had a choice between the spiritual road and the materialistic road. In that person's case, it's possible that the South Node is the balance.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be alert for this, but you're not going to gain at the South Node. That road is not going to give you much gain, though it is much nicer in Sagittarius. The South Node loves to be in Sagittarius. So some people aren't finding it so hard. Like I'm being able to dispense my works a great deal right now, more than ever before. And it is, related to my work, the Sagittarius sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have
So I
my
hope
that's Saggy energies in the fourth house for me. This place is spick and span.
yeah. Yeah, you're going out to the whole universe from your space. And so why does the South Node love to be in Sagittarius? And it also enjoys Pisces because it's a spiritual and giving. It gives, and Sagittarius loves to give. And the South Node also likes to be in Scorpio because Scorpio rules the tail. The excretory function is excited in Scorpio as it is with the South Node. So, and North Node loves to be in Taurus because Taurus loves to eat, and it loves to amass. And so it assists this. I haven't quite figured out why the North Node likes to be in Gemini, but it does. So, they're in exalted right now, but that doesn't mean you aren't going to see, like the effects we're seeing around the world. Sagittarius rules religions, You can't go to church. It rules the travel industry, half shut down. Immigration shut down. Immigration shut down. Trade, all the trade wars. Anything Sagittarius seems to be having a lot of trouble since the eclipses began in this sign.
Yeah.
Gemini's going wild, which is podcasts, things on computer, everything to do with computers is just going crazy.
Yeah.
So
Information is so abundant right now. And I think about that, like that Taurus likes to eat. I'm like, oh my gosh, the North Node is literally like an information
yeah,
junkie right now.
people want to learn right now. People
Mhm.
really want to learn. And whether this will survive after North Node leaves Gemini, we'll have to see. But I see the South Node in Sag has not hurt the proliferation through the web at all, because the giant web is Sagittarius. There it seems to be in harmony. So, you know, these things are very, very subtle. I do take issue with philosophies that give the nodes one meaning each,
Sure.
because they have so many subtleties and meanings. And that's what I try to put into my book, was so you get to really know these nodes, and they're fantastic for everything in the chart.
So the question here is how and why the research and writing of the nodes? How did you end up there?
Because I kept noticing that they were so powerful that with just the natal nodes, transits to the natal nodes, transits from the nodes, and transits of Saturn, Jupiter, the outer planets, you can give a perfectly good reading. And I mentioned this to another astrologer who'd been at it for years, and she said, I found the same thing. And I thought, you know, I really got to look into this. And then I noticed that the Jyotish in India have a different view of how they use their nodes, but they do rule all the same things. And why was that? So I had to start investigating this. And I realized that in history, nobody had done any writing at all, ever, on the details of the transit nodes to the planets medically. We have to fix that. Very little writing on the transit nodes to each planet, distinct meanings and for vocations. Very little writing on transits to the nodes. There was more of that. But people historically, what the transits meant of the nodes, especially medically, completely neglected. So of course I wanted to be the first and write a really, really good book on this so that people could use it. And so it was put into the world. And at that time, I never thought it would be popular at all. And it sold very little at first. And here we are, you know, 20 years later, 40 years later on this one, I think, and people are interested in the nodes finally.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant because it almost just seems like, at least is how I stumble onto research, is something keeps showing up. And then finally I go, well, what is that? And then that's how I end up in the research of that particular arena.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of books on the nodes. I think I was the first to do the medical transits in great detail and a few other things, but there's lots of good books on the nodes, and they all discover something a little different. But I remember reading somewhere, this was part of it too, Stormy. I remember reading somewhere, and it was, I think, in a Jyotish text or an old European text, that the nodes were considered more powerful than any of the planets because they're the places eclipses happen or very nearby. And so they can swallow up any of the planets, including the sun or moon temporarily. Therefore, they have great power. And I thought, well, they really do when you're reading charts. They really, really do. And so that encouraged me to really get into nodology, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I love that nodology.
Yeah, nodology.
Yeah.
There are many, many good writers. I try to really bring in both views of East and West in my work.
Brilliant. Shall we take a visit and see what happens when the nodes touch other planets? Because I know somebody's asking about Mercury. We've got what happens when they come to Venus. So shall we take a tour?
Yeah, Stormy, you pick a planet. Pick a
Okay,
planet.
well, let's do Mercury because between Mercury and Venus, I don't know who I love more.
Okay, well, let's take, the North Node. When the North Node transits over your Mercury, it's going to last a lot longer than when Mercury transits your North Node, unless it stations on it. So it'll be a wave that'll, could last a year, but it's going to be really strong when it's within 1 degree, really strong. So that's going to bring energy to your mind, energy to it's great for talking. It's wonderful for writing, wonderful for students. Mercurial type people may enter your life. It's nice for setting up small businesses, depending on where it is in your chart and if it's a business planet for you. Now, when the South Node comes over Mercury, it's a good time to rest your mind. You might, unless you're writing about spirit, it's shamanistic and spiritual. It brings a lot of psychic information. It's a very spiritual point, but it could make you feel like not talking or being silent. I've seen a number of cases of that. Writings don't usually get finished, or you can't make money off them. It's down the toilet bowl. I wrote this huge paper on South Node crossing my Mercury and tried to write a book under it, and no end of editing debacles. Just no end to this, and it cost me 3 times what it should have. And I learned my lesson. Don't try this again. Great for meditating. Do not take psychotropics unless you're very stable. This could be difficult for people with mental challenges.
Okay.
They need a little remediation on that. Yeah.
Sure. I've got the node climbing its way towards my Mercury, the North Node.
Very good, especially because you're in a mercurial profession where you're, talking, and so pick another planet if we have to.
Okay, let's do Venus.
Okay, ladies out there, men too. North Node coming to Venus, especially if Venus seconds this in your chart, like it rules the 7th or rules the 5th of love, can bring love. It can also improve beauty, nice for growing hair, beautiful skin. Stormy and me don't have to worry about our hair.
It's happening. So, we got that going.
Yeah. So now it, however, is a great cyst builder. So if you had a problem with, breast cysts or vocal polyps, it can potentize that problem. So you want to remediate it. It's nice for social events. It's wonderful for musicians, artists, hairdressers. Your business will go up. Everything with Venus. Somebody might give you, it's great for gems. Somebody might give you a ring, or somebody might give you flowers. It can be very helpful. You get a little kitty cat, they're under Venus, or your strawberry patch and peach tree are doing well that year. Things ruled by Venus. And the people and things that Venus signifies in your chart. You get that Rex Bill's rulership book, everything Venus. There's a incoming wave over it, a positive wave, okay? South Node crossing Venus can produce hair loss, skin decline. Now you can remediate and help these things out. The love life, people either return from the past. This happens on the day of Venus crossing your South Node natally too. But the bigger wave of South Node over Venus, it means an eclipse will be near your Venus that year. You might have deaths of people you love. This does happen. I have seen it myself multiple times. Your sister may be in some kind of problem. Venus could be a sister, a daughter, a beloved child, a pet. It rules girls in general, young women, girls in general. So if you're a counselor, you'd suddenly start having a lot of teenage girls popping up in trouble, see? Now you can give love. You can give love, but don't expect necessarily love to be returned that period. The South Node is a point for karmic debt payment.
All right.
Pay off your debts. It's not all bad. You can get a lot of interesting spiritual ideas if you're a musician or artist, but you may not make a lot of money or get real famous that year. You always want your 3 testimonies. That's why I don't like cookbooks, even though I wrote one, but it's always with a lot of caveats. Your personal chart, every little detail that Venus means, the houses it rules, who you are, what's going on, what gender you are, all will come into the what's going on. And that's the astrologer's job to try to figure out what this will mean precisely for this person.
Right.
And but it's not normally the best time for love, or you have to end up helping your lover or something. But just wait, the North Node will get your Venus by then.
It's coming around. Don't worry about that. I know. Well, and so now Mars. People are like, well, what about Mars?
Oh boy. Well, the North Node over Mars is pretty exciting. It gives you energy. Don't we all, ever seen a depressed athlete? No, they usually have mania, but they don't get depressed. When you're being very active, you're feeling, otherwise, I'm so happy. I just won. Remember that woman? She just won the soccer match. She's that famous photo. That's Mars. That's North Node Mars. Okay. So your red blood cells go up, your iron levels go up. It's wonderful for building muscles. Mars and Saturn give us strength. They're our allies too. Wonderful for beginning new business projects, especially if they're industrial. Starting that new steel plant. Oh, it's going to go great. It's great for martial artists. It's great for anybody, carpenters are Martian, lawyers, prosecution lawyers especially. It's helpful if you need to win a war or battle. But what's it bad for? Oh my, it can make people go absolutely bonkers with temper, manic temper fits, hyperactivity, insomnia. People born with this can suffer these things too. Overheating of the blood or those body parts that's in the sign that it rolls, you can overheat. Bee stings, wounds, Mars coming in on you too strong.
Sure.
So it has or you want to be you could meet a very exciting man, but he could be dangerous. You want to double check his past. North Node is the dragon's head, was known for being incredibly rapacious. Now the South Node crossing your Mars, usually you get a fatigue or anemias, low iron. Mars rules iron, low red blood cells, low testosterone for the men. So you want to eat the foods that will support that. It's not the best time to begin major projects that cost a lot of money or purchase real estate. Mars and Saturn have a great deal to do with real estate. The Jyotish say that Mars is money, not Venus. Mars is the go-get planet. And people who make a lot of money, I'm going to segue here for a minute, Stormy.
Okay.
I watched Billionaires Week. They had Billionaires Weeks, went on for months on TV. And I'd always get the chart of the billionaire, not a millionaire, a billionaire. Every single one of them had three or four of these same planets in a roll, going within 3 signs, usually 2. Mars, North Node, Pluto, and Jupiter, I believe it was. Those planets together bring wealth, and over and over and over again. They don't have to all be in the same sign, but a rolling conjunction through 2 or 3 signs. But South Node Mars, just don't do anything. I'm joking.
Just relax for a minute.
Yeah, what you can do is volunteer work, throw out trash, eradicate insects. You can get rid of stuff. It facilitates the release of toxins from the body because Mars is an excretor. So it's very good for that. It has its good uses, but don't run for office. I just lost Stormy. Are we still on?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just calling.
Okay. So the Mars is, if you try to do something for personal gain, like run a bicycle race, or you want to run for office, South Node Mars is not the best for winning things. And either is transit Mars to your natal South Node.
So if you're getting a North Node to your Mars as well, is this good for libido?
Yes. Libido goes up both on Venus and Mars, and they're different kinds. In the old books, I got pissed off at this. They always have Venus rules sex. Well, no, it doesn't. That's from the male point of view. Mars rules lust. Venus rules love. You think of the flower, the bees are all going around it. The flower is the Venus, the bees are the Mars, male and female polarities. So males who always wrote all the old books, and sex was supposed to be dirty and bad, they always gave sex to women. And so therefore Venus ruled sex. Venus rules the desire for love and bonding and closeness. And yeah, she's sexy too. She's magnetic. But Mars gives the libido. People take a little testosterone, they're going to be filled with libido. So yes, you'll get usually, now this is weird. The south node on Mars can bring libido too. Why is that? Because the tail is associated with libido and the tail. So you can either get a huge dip in your libido or a great rise. Either way, sometimes hemorrhages too for some people on either one. They're a little hard. Mars is tricky with the south node because his nature is more like the south node, and that is traditional as well.
What about Jupiter?
Jupiter. Oh, yeah. Jupiter brings north node over Jupiter will bloat something. Whatever your Jupiter means in your chart, its general significations like fat, luck, wealth, rules uncles, can rule your father. In the house it's in, these things can become, they get a little lift for good or bad. It can be tumor prone. If a person is tumor prone, that's not good. It's wonderful for people in Jupiter ruled careers. I'll speed along because we don't have a lot of time. The transit south node going over Jupiter couldn't be a better time to lose weight. It'll fall off easier. Not so fertile, miscarriage prone. North node over Jupiter, on the other hand, is really good if you're trying to have a baby. Transit Jupiter coming to your north node, even better. South node over Jupiter. Yeah.
I see that too. Just when Jupiter is getting like a really nice nodal activation, it's like, oh, babies, let's expand that's perfect. Yay.
Yeah, Jupiter's a significator of children in the Jyotish system, and it works. I use it all the time. I'm now the proud father of many, as I joke around, because I helped so many women get pregnant. The south node crossing Jupiter, it's nice for letting go of things. It's not, don't try to do something for luck. You can give, you figure out where you can give in the house, and there'll be opportunities to give and help a lot of people there. That's where you can help your society. Plant trees and do something, but things don't tend to grow real well there. And it will depend completely on the person's individual chart. South node rather likes Jupiter because Jupiter is giving. So's the south node. Jupiter tends to be spiritual. So's the south node. So a lot of good things can be made out of that one. But no playing stock markets,
Pass on that for this time.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we did Saturn already, and we've done the sun already. So Uranus.
Oh my, Uranus on either node, I'm going to have to kind of bundle them because I see we only have a few more minutes, can produce problems with electricity. In fact, my apprentice, Clayton Cruz, one of a few I have, he did a little study just on people who are electrocuted. And sure enough, nodes and Uranus can bring a lot of problems. Spasm, the north node brings sudden events to Uranus, hopefully more positive events. Uranus is famous for just suddenly picking you up like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and dropping you somewhere more better. It can. But don't play with electricity. Let's see. The south node crossing Uranus can bring a lot of very weird, unpredictable problems, like all of a sudden lightning strikes your tree, but also can produce some mental instability or problems with your body's electrical system, or thyroid gland. Uranus has a lot to do with the thyroid gland. This is according to the great medical psychic Edgar Casey. I found it relevant. North node can mean you're on Uranus, hyperthyroid. South node crossing Uranus, hypothyroid. Strange diseases can begin. It's a weird one, but it can also go by unnoticed. But it usually has some effects within 1 degree, or if an eclipse has taken place.
Yeah.
So of course you
eclipse is on the way.
yeah, it'll can bring sudden events that are remarkable and open. Oh, Uranus is the great liberator. If you want to get out of prison and you've been waiting and waiting and waiting, an eclipse on your Uranus can actually let you out of prison. It's the liberator. It reverses polarities. So people just suddenly reverse their gender of interest under these. So you always watch the eclipses. They're following the transit nodes or vice versa. They'll be very close by. And so you have your eclipse, and say it's 2 degrees off that Uranus. The nodes carry the eclipse with them, the effect. So you wait till that south node gets right over Uranus and you'll have your effect. That's one technique. It's fascinating. But yeah, all kinds of extremes on both of those, and it can be wonderful. Who doesn't like a little change, right?
Who doesn't like a little great awakening in your life?
Yeah. Sometimes there's too much, though. We've had a really strange 4 years here in the United States, but sometimes we have too much sudden shocks. But Uranus can greatly improve a person's life, and all of you astrologers have seen this, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'm a Taurus, so I've been being shaken, not stirred, by Uranus for some time, and I am quite surprised. Truly, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, it'll do it.
All right. How about Pluto? We'll do Pluto and Neptune, and then I think we got them all.
I'll try to be fast. Pluto, again, doesn't influence absolutely everybody. According to Edgar Casey, it's growing in influence. But Pluto is always something very, very intense. North node coming over Pluto can produce enormous wealth in the right charts. Pluto governs the billionaires, produces great, great wealth, can produce temperature extremes, emotional extremes, because Pluto rules emotional extremes. Uranus rules mental extremes. North node enhances that tendency. So you must first decide what that Pluto has meant for that person. They're going to get more of it. That's simple. They're either going to get less of it on the other end. But South Node, Pluto is also a big excreter. I don't like South Node Pluto if a person has something, a weird bacterial disease or HIV, or it can be difficult. You have to be careful sexually, safe sex around nodal contacts to Pluto, Neptune, and Mars. Very, very important. But very strange things can happen. Oh, things from the past pop up under Neptune conceals, Pluto reveals. So I've looked a number of times at when a ship was sunk. That'll be under Neptune. They can't find it. 200 years later, I get the date. They find the ship. Pluto, off in the nodes, coming to Pluto. That you can realize your dad isn't really your dad. You had another dad. Things like that can happen with the nodes coming to Pluto. Now genetic issues can pop up too, and things from your karma, ancient past life stuff. Oh my goodness, Pluto, Neptune. Your past life comes back around. That the nodes have to do with past lives, which I speak of a lot in my book, if you believe in those. But if they or just this life, they're a record revolving the past and the now. The past is the south node. Neptune. Oh, mysteries. You get a lot. Oh, be very careful not to drown. I've seen so many drownings when the south node is crossing Neptune. And I wrote about one of them. He was saved in my book. A very funny story, but we don't have time for it. Unless we do, I don't know. But the north node can bring a tendency to drink alcohol too much, smoke opium, to get addicted to things. Eat. Neptune wants to relax and have bliss. It can be positive spiritual contacts, or getting involved in a cult that hypnotizes you. Be more conscious, but you're getting a lot of your Neptune, whatever that is, the muse will be singing to you. Great for musicians, great for poets. South node Neptune means danger through the ocean, danger through viruses, danger through psychotropic drugs. Don't be fooling around with, I'm going to go take acid and see what it's like. That's no time for that. However, you need a lot of psychic self-protection, I think, on both of these, with Pluto and Neptune. This one's the most. You need to be aware of your boundaries and don't play around with spirits and channeling with the nodes on Pluto, or either node on Pluto or Neptune. I find the worst, you're most vulnerable, south node crossing your Neptune, or Neptune crossing your south node.
Okay.
So,
we've got to know about the story of the drowning person.
oh, it's a great story. I've written it in one of my books. This is a great story. I had a client, and he had transit north node coming to his Neptune, while transit Neptune was coming to his south node coming to his south node, double Neptune south node. I call that a doubling. And he was going off to the Bahamas or somewhere with his wife. I think it was the Bahamas. And I said, well, don't go swimming. Don't go scuba diving. This is really dangerous with the ocean. And of course, but I said, always keep your wife near you, because she will protect you, because she had Jupiter in Cancer, and it was exactly on his ascendant. So what did they do? They ignore you, of course. They always do. They always ignore you, of course. So what do they do? So they immediately go off swimming, and he immediately drowns. He disappears. She's looking all over. So she dives under the waves. She finds him drowned. She drags his body to the shore. She resuscitates him. He lives. Unbeknownst to me, she had her youth. In her youth, she was a professional lifeguard. They never told me that. So he did drown. His wife was kept close to him, and she saved him. This is Neptune south node at work. So it's astrology, real life. And the better lesson is, folks, your clients will never listen to you.
Right. I know. I'm like, I think that's what I heard, is like, they're not going to listen to you. I don't know how many times people have done that, and they come back and they're like, okay, wait, I didn't listen to you. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to. Nobody's making you listen to me. I mean, I just assume you came here.
Yeah.
You know what I have to say.
Yeah, you can always assume that they generally won't, but every now and then one will. And that the one you want to watch is the Jupiter South Node. I've saved a number of people who did thank me, and some that didn't. That said they didn't know. They said, "I wish I'd listened. I lost 100,000 in the stock market."
Wow.
Yeah, the nodes are very helpful things if people will listen.
If they'll listen and they'll study. So we will help the studying process by making sure that your book is available. I'll put the link right underneath the video so everybody can find it. I mean, you can also go search on Amazon if you'd like to, or go to Judith's website, which I'll make sure is available as well, because it sounds like there's a lot to be able to comb through the nitty gritties of seeing how this unfolds.
Yes, it's an amazing study, but all you have to do is learn the simple basics. North node in, south node out. Sometimes in is good, or an upswing is good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes an exit is very good, sometimes it's not. Generally more loss and sorrow are on the south node end, but that's life. It's the wheel of life, and we all experience all of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's brilliant because it's like, whether it is just life, you live your life and you experience all the things, you go to therapy or psychotherapy, or you go to astrology, the real benefit is astrology has speed, and we can just say that's coming.
Yes. And
you get to deal with it before and after.
And Stormy, the south, and I forgot to mention, it's a place where you can rest that planet, rest that house, rest those activities, or do your spiritual work there, your psychological work. That's what its purpose is. It goes in. Oh, the other thing, south node goes inward. The north node goes into the world. Very different.
Yeah.
And if we have time to talk about why that is, which we don't, the astronomy of it, but that's in the book too. But I forgot to add those things.
Oh man, this has all been so good already. And I think there'll be plenty of people picking that book up, reading, seeing what it's about, because the nodes, like any of the lunar placements, it's just so permeable, right? These placements are so permeable. So I think even subconsciously, unconsciously, we interact with them and don't realize what just happened.
Yeah. And today, the moon is conjunct the south node in Sagittarius. So it's a good day to discuss the nodes. Bring them forward.
And the node is completely comfortable.
Yeah, and it's South Node loves astrology. So many people born with the South Node rising or in the midheaven are astrologers, naturopaths, psychics, homeopaths, the professions that deal with the unseen or the inner life. South Node, good thing.
Wow.
So,
oh my gosh. Well, Judith, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. And I look forward to inviting you back because there's always room to come back.
well, my pleasure, Stormy. This has been really, really fun and elegant and wonderful exchange today.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for showing up. And hopefully in this last hour, we definitely gave you something that was like, yeah, that was worth my time showing up. And if you're watching in the playback, let us know your questions, comments, all of that good stuff as well. And we will see you guys later this week where we will have a morning eat and greet on Wednesday, the 18th. It'll be at 10 a.m. and we'll have Simon Vorster here. And we're going to talk about intercepted signs. So if you've got a couple of those, definitely show up. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.